What do you think it is when the interior lights
All right, YouTube.
on? When you open the door?
We're gonna make some 300 hammer brass. At least how I do it. So we're doing a major resizing, so you always want to make sure that you're using some type of lube to lube the cases up. I do it in an old powder thing here. If you're doing a larger amount, let me stir this up. It's kind of like ketchup, it separates. Let me tilt you down just a little bit more so you can see what we're doing without me having to hold my arms over my head. So you don't need very much of this to do a whole lot of casings, but I use the same container to, that's way plenty. So then I just take the casings that have been fired, picked up at the range, and drop them in here. We ain't going to put a whole bunch in. The nice thing about these, for sure, case lube, is you can use it wet or dry. So you can do your casings up and let them set brown and dry and they still lube, or you can lube them up and run them through right away. It's gonna be a little noisy. So I just shake it around. Get it all over them. Some of these were awfully cruddy, but you don't want it gobbed on there. You just want a nice little coating. Now the other thing you have to do, since we're doing such a large we're taking this from 224 to 30 caliber or 308. You want to put a little bit of lube inside that case mouth, or you won't, every case won't do it, but you'll get cases that you'll mess up because it'll fold them down or get jammed in your die, and you don't want none of that. So get some out here to work with a while. And then I take a little Q-tip. You could even just use a little stick. And you don't need much. You just want to wet that Q-tip with a little bit of this stuff. A lot of times you can get enough off the cap. Alright. And you don't want to gop it inside that casing. Okay. So then just go in there and twirl it around there a little bit. In there, twirl it around there a little bit and lube up our casings. The case mouth, just because we're doing such a big resizing where we're stretching that case out. And some cases aren't going to take it. Alright, some cases are just going to mess up. Especially if they're really hard up there at the neck. I don't anneal anything. I don't have the means to do it right now. But that would certainly help your casings last a little longer. So we put it in there. I have it just in the Lee turret press. You could do this with a single stage press. I don't put it in my progressive press because you got to trim them and stuff afterwards, so it's a lot better just doing all your prep like this. Now once you have them turned into 300 brass, you could then put this die into your progressive die plate and run right along. So then when they come out, we're blowed out. We got our shoulder formed. I have that all adjusted already. And no stuck case. Nice case mouth. And that one there, split. That one wouldn't take it. So that one there, we throw in our tub for recycled brass. And the big thing you want to look at when you're picking up range brass is if it has a crimped primer pocket. See, this one here has a crimped primer pocket and this one don't. So I don't have a swage. That one there's a crimped primer pocket. Okay. I don't have a swage yet to deal with these. So I do it a little bit different, but it might allow if somebody doesn't have a swage either or a cutter to trim them, this idea might help somebody else. That one there split. Usually I don't get that many split ones, but and some of the splits, if they're not far down, you're going to end up trimming them off. So what I do, if I can find it, is I take the chamfer tool, call it little rocket ship, because looks like a rocket sitting there ready to take off. But I'll clean the primer pocket out, just because it doesn't really have anything to do with it. Now this one here is okay. That one's going to take a primer, so I don't need to do anything to it. That's fine. There's a crimp one. So I just go in here and turn that a bit and trim that crimp out. And there's still, I've done this a lot, there's still plenty of surface there to keep your primer in. you don't want to go too far. You just want to have a little bit of a taper. I'm sure swaging them out or trimming them out with a straight cutter is the better way to do it. But this is a nice stopgap method. As long as you don't get into there too far. It works really well. It doesn't weaken your brass. Still holds the primer well. Okay, so we got them primer pockets cleaned out. And we can wipe the lube off of there. Okay, so we don't have that sticky lube on there. And then I put it in this one here when I'm trimming a lot. Lock it down, and I have a little drill rigged up. And I have it set. And trim that casing the length. And stops cutting, you're there. And when you take it out, now you gotta take your rocket ship again and chamfer inside and the outside of your case mouth. And there's a, I don't know how much you missed, but the GoPro quit working. So we're going to do another one here. Alright, we're there. We take our little rocket ship, do our inside, outside. We already are chamfered our primer opening. So there we got another one ready. It takes a little bit of time, but you can make a fair amount of 300 hammer brass out of 223s you pick up at the range, or in my case 223s that my sons shoot, and I steal from them to make my 300 hammers. Now, one thing I will say, this does trim very nice. Now, I will show you the other way I do it, which is really not for doing this, but I like it also. I have a Lee zip trim, an old zip trim that they've discontinued with their new trimming system, which I don't have. I like that old Lee zip trim. Some people like it, some people don't. I like the arbors and everything. Now the only thing is, you're gonna, like a 300 hammer, you're not gonna be able to get this arbor. So I took a .308 arbor, turned it down on the lathe, you know, to make it shorter so that my length is right. Made a new hole, reused the pin over, put the pin in there on the end of it, set it in there so that it would dead stop. You'll see when I use the Lee zip trim. The nice thing about that is you boom, boom, you know what I mean? You can easy switch from, oh, I'm doing this one here, and you could take it out and then have an arbor for 223 and go to using 223. But I had to make this arbor, this part here. I had to make that out of one for a 308 because Lee doesn't offer it in the 300 hammer. I basically, you know, took the drawings for, you know, the overall length of the cartridge and that it's supposed to be, and that's what we went off of when I was making that. Because this here, you don't need all of this once you make them and you're just trimming them after a firing. The Lee zip trim is really nice for that. All made up, ready to go. Let's see here. The trim length for the 300 hammer is 1.595. Let's just make sure nothing moved. I should have did that before I did so many. We're a little tiny bit long. We're 1.597. But it chambers up perfectly fine. It gives you a little bit extra. But it trims up. It works out very nicely. I never had any problem at that trim length so far. There's a hard spot in that casing. Now it's going to want to turn it. Alright, I don't know where the camera stopped there, but my battery died and I'm not quite done trimming, so this is a good time to switch over and show you the other method that I use. And that one ain't quite trimmed yet. So I have my stuff set up with this T-track, very similar to I'm subscribed to him. No, I can't think of his name right now. Gavin Tube. I think his real name's Gavin Gear. the ultimate reloader channel. Okay, so I already have the adapter on here for 223. Can you guys see that? Yeah, my head might be in the way, I don't know. But we're going to use the zip trim arbor that I made. Oh, there it came out. Get it centered again. We're at that hard spot, and now we're through it. And now it don't matter how hard I push. I mean, I don't want to push real hard, but that pin on the end goes through the primer hole and hits that hard metal surface of the shaft, and it stops you from cutting too far. So, I mean, I have numerous of these for, you know, a lot of the different calibers that I do, and I have them each on their own cutter. But like here is, there's 223 or 5. Now I don't know what you saw, but basically this stops the trimming. I had to make this from a 308 arbor. So now if we take this one here, let's see where we are. Real quick. And that one there, we're right on 1.595. So there we're dead on the money. So what we ought to do, since them other ones measured a little long with our rough end method, and I could adjust that so it was hitting more perfect. But what we'll do is we'll, just to show you the Lee zip trim here, and like I said, you can still find these on Amazon, but Lee stopped making them. So there you see it took just the slightest little bit off of there. And this is really nice and convenient. As you saw there earlier, my battery died for my other one. When you're just trimming a little bit, okay, from firing, you know, your normal trimming that you're doing, this method here is really hard to beat because you're not taking a whole lot off. Now with, you know, sometimes it's taking more than this off because we're trimmed almost there. We're within 1.5 thousandths, I think, with our other trim length there. And that one there, we didn't even hardly take nothing off of it. But it makes them, they're nice and square, like you want them. Try this one here. And we'll do one here, or two. Took a little off, we'll just chafer it a little bit. Like I said, I like to wipe off the sizing lube just so it don't gunk up the rest of my dies. And the nice thing is with this, while they're in there, I mean, I'll put this one back in, but while they were in there, if I would have thought about it, while it's spinning on here, I can frickin' wipe it off. And you can take a little piece of a Scotch-Brite pad and really clean your case up. Like I said, I should have wiped these off while they were it's just so convenient. I'm going to put them back in there. I could have wiped these off before I took them out instead of cycling them back through here. There, didn't have it tight enough. They do make a quick chuck that you don't need the case head specific adapters there that'll fit anything, similar to that quick chuck that's on the other trimmer. Let's get another one out of here. And when you're doing it, trimming from the whole get-go, make sure to put some case lube inside that neck. Oh, there I bumped you guys. You're gonna be shaking. Well, there we split it, but we'll see if we can trim off of there and save that one, because we have to trim a fair amount off. It's tight, tight, tight. Because till that pin gets in that primer hole, it can wobble all over the place. This one here's got hard spots all over the place. Of course, the one that I'm showing on YouTube, wants to fight me. Doesn't help, my fingers are all slicked up from this dirty brass and the case lube. Like I said, this is when you're trimming way down there from normal 223 length down. This one's fighting me. Alright, we're gonna go back to, I'm almost, oh no I'm not. GoPro, stop recording. Alright, we got a fresh battery here. Set that one there, because we gotta on that one. But we'll size some more up here. You swab the inside. Here, no, get a little bit more. And you don't want gobs and gobs on there, guys, like I said earlier. You don't want it left behind inside the casing, so you just want to take it and just put a little bit in there and try and get some of the excess out of there with the side of the Q-tip, and then that'll be wet enough then when you go to the next one and the next one and the next one. So we'll put them in there, run it on up, make sure it's going in aligned. Snap it in over there. We're going to do our rough trimming with this just because it's much easier because you got so much to take off. We're not done trimming. We're going to finish them up with the Lee zip trim. And then we're going to use that same thing to wipe our case lube off.
You gonna blow it out first?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, only on YouTube, everybody. If there's a way to mess up and look like a fool on YouTube, I can do it. Oh, missed that one. That looked a little funny to me, guys. I wanted to check it. Alright, there's one that failed big time. So that was a little too hard. So we throw that in the bin to go to the scrap yard for scrap. Alright, so now we're going to move this one out of the way. We're going to straighten up them couple there. Now, a lot of guys will want to make a rig with the little saw you can get from Harbor Freight to trim their brass. And I've watched videos on it, and that looks that works very well. A lot of them guys you see are doing it for 300 blackout, where there's a lot more to trim off. As you saw there, that doesn't take much time at all. And these here, you saw earlier, we can chamfer these up, measure them, and we could adjust that other trimmer that it's a little bit more precise. But on length, we absolutely can. I mean, that's a fine unit. That's an old Lyman. My hands are still slippy. But this kind of shows you a little bit where you only got to trim a little bit off once you form these cases. Okay? We'll clean our lube off. Don't push real hard. Okay, clean our lube off. Chafe our inside and outside, get rid of all them burrs. And we already checked it there up there. And then if you want to make that brass really nice, take a little Scotch-Brite pad while it's in your Lee zip trim. Clean our primer pocket out. And I don't think there's anybody going to say that there's anything wrong with that piece of brass. I mean, it's very nice and clean. Okay? So I need another. I need something to throw them in when they're done. We don't have another little trophy thing, do we? Alright, well, let's just keep going here with what we got done up here. And I got one there, we didn't hardly cut anything off of it. It's right at length. While it's still in there, we'll take our bullet lube off. I get my big bear paws on there and I squeeze too hard and it yanks it out of the thing. But that's there, with those ones splitting like that in the case mouth, when you're sizing them out, some of that could be maybe a little more lube on the inside to help it. It might have been too much lube. I don't think so, but sometimes they say if you have too much lube on the outside of your case, it'll make a dent when you run it up in your sizing die, because it forces, it's like hydraulic pressure. Some dies actually have a little vent hole drilled in them so that that can't happen, which is certainly a good idea. But the solution is don't overdo it with your lube. That just fell right out of there, didn't it? Like I said, don't overdo it when you're using the rocket ship on the Lee zip trim, because you can take a lot of brass off in pretty short order. But there, we cleaned that up. I mean, I would say we're not making brass quite as fast as the guys that make the little cut-off saw with a jig cutting their brass off. But when you're doing 300 blackout, you have so much more. That shoulder's way down here. They're much shorter. I mean, there's a reason why the 300 blackout, in a lot of cases, is using a handgun powder, because it is an extremely small case. And that one there is trimmed to the right line. Extremely small case. I mean, not that it's not a capable cartridge, especially with the heavier bullets and performing subsonic, which is what it was designed to do. Okay, but if you want something that's going to be supersonic, and give you performance somewhere between 3030 and 308 ballistically and terminally, the 300 hammer is a great choice, which is, you probably already know all this stuff, and that's what brought you here. You already own it. You're looking to learn more, and that's what brought you to this video. You know, you probably did your research and you said, you know what, that's what I'm looking for. You know what Bill Wilson is talking about there. I mean, there's nothing wrong with a big heavy bullet chugging along and do a lot of damage. I mean, I got 45 70s and 45 ACP, and ain't nobody can say that the 45 ACP is not an effective man stopper. And that's a big heavy bullet moving slow. Alright, so now we're going to switch up here. How much brass is in that?
Probably like 15.
Just put them on. We're going to switch up and do some loads here. Switch modes here a little bit. The only thing I will say, if you find a Lee zip trim on Amazon or something, you just got to realize what it is and don't get too forceful. Make sure you're not pulling the string down real hard, that you're forcing it into this joint of the plastic or up there real hard. If you come out through here, you won't wear that string out. It'll last a good long time. A lot of times you see comments that people broke the string, and when they took it apart trying to fix the string themselves, which I'm all for that, fixing things yourself. I mean, that's kind of what we're all about here. You know, the spring came unwound and this, that, and the other thing. It was a real nightmare. Excuse me, it's really hot and humid where we live, so I needed a little refreshment there, the old dew. I'm going to take these out of the T-track. There's a bunch of primers and trim stuff and you know what. Down in them tracks, you got to keep them clean. But this T-track here, I got that from the Ultimate Reloaders channel. Now this isn't his T-track. He has a really heavy-duty metal T-track that he's working on. He hasn't brought to market yet, but in the interim, this is really nice. Allows you to swap things out really nicely. And you're going to see how as we switch right here. So we're going to switch from the turret press here, which could be an O press. It could be a single stage. I don't know. I think the O press is called a Challenger, but you know that you're doing this operation in, like we said earlier. And we're gonna, my boy's gonna help me here, and we're gonna switch from this job into our progressive reloading. Now we got some things we got to work on and fight with a little bit. For some reason, my press, and I'm not one to send stuff back and let the manufacturer fix it if I can fix it. But our shell plates, I think every one we have, besides the shell plate that fits 9mm and 40, turns really hard. So we're going to do some things here that I've seen on some other channels. Give me one of them big fat Q-tips, one of the big ones. I'm going to try and clean out in here a little bit. We're going to try to make sure we don't have nothing sticking up higher than it should be that's binding. And there's all kinds of crud in here now. Gun Blue, he would clean this all out with mineral spirits and all of that, because it definitely does get crudded up, but primers can hang on it and everything else, and you can see all the crud down here. But I'm just worried about all these top surfaces where that shell plate rides. And I don't know, we're going to see what it makes a difference here. We're going to try a little emery cloth in here. Because this, you drop this down on there, lubed up and everything. And I just took all the lube out of here that I had in here, but lubed up and everything. And it's only because I want to make sure the dirt's out of there. GoPro, stop recording. Alright guys, we're going to set up here now. Oh my goodness. That adapter was threaded in there crazy hard. I always like to store my powder dyes with the adapter in it. That needs cleaned. That needs cleaned big time. Bunch of powder hanging in there. Give me a clean, dry Q-tip. You don't want to have anything in your dies lubricant wise, really. For the powder to stick to. I don't really understand how these got anything on them. Now you could put a little tiny bit of a light lube on the outside of there, but I don't want to lose that piece as it gets moved and changed around. So I always put the funnel adapter that they come with back in the top so that piece doesn't come out. This is the Lee charging die kit. Short charging die, long rifle charging die. We have the long one set up on a set of our 308 dies right now. And we're going to go through. Now these dies are set up. We don't have our decapping die in here because we did that in the stage before on the single press because we're doing such resizing. Now once I have enough of this brass made, and I got a lot of magazines full, but once I have a stock of it where I'm not needing to make new brass all the time, I'll then bring that die over here. So when I'm reloading this after I made it and fired it, I can just do everything in one operation on through. Alright, so we're going to use the auto drum powder measure for this load. I'm going to thread this down in here a piece. Now when you get your auto drum powder measure, if you already have one, you already know this. But there is and this is probably already set, ain't it, Austin? Mm-hmm. There's a smaller capacity one and a larger capacity one that you get with it. If we look here, right here in the book for them, it will say the small drum, the maximum capacity is 40 grains. The large drum, the minimum capacity is 35, maximum is 100 grains. And it comes with a plug that you can put in there to get to the small capacity. And if I'm remembering correctly, the grains of powder we need are well within the 30 that it mentions there. So this one here, we put a little tape on. They say you can write on this surface with a lead pencil on it. It'll show up and be able to stay there. But you can wipe it off so easy. We just put a little piece of tape on there once we have it set, write down what it is on there, and then you can pick up a spare quick chain. Now this video is probably going to have a bunch of holes. GoPro, stop recording. Alright guys, I know this video probably is going to have a bunch of skips and holes in it. The way this GoPro is acting. I don't know if it's the SD card or what it is. We're going to try to make the best of it. But basically I'm going to use the powder, the auto drum. So we want to keep this drum with the settings it has. So we're going to thread it off here. Okay, you got your nut. There's an O-ring in it. Make sure that's in place. That keeps your tension. And then there's the whole rigmarole that it hooks into. You got splines on here. Okay, so this here we have taped for 39.9 grains of H335 of 308 load. So now we can put this up. I'm just going to set it up here for now. And we keep that preset. And this one here, if I remember correctly, should be preset for one of my hammer loads. I mean, we're obviously going to have to. Now, obviously, when you put this in, you want to make sure that the hole, this is down at rest, is facing up there to get filled with powder. And you come around here to the back side. Thread that nut back on. Snug it up a little bit, and you're set up with your other drum. I mean, this one here we're going to have to double check. There's a couple ways to do it. You can get close. No, I don't want to take that back out. But before I put that in there, I could have took that drum and pre-measured my charge weight, pour it into there, and then turn this screw. This comes out, goes up there, so it's a little more compact. But turn that screw up until that powder came right up to the top of it. Okay, so I could pour my powder charge in here. I could pour my powder charge in here, turn that up until I brought the powder charge right up to that lip, and then stop. I've already pre-measured my powder charge, and it'll get you very close to what you're looking for. Or you can, put it in there and just start dropping loads and checking them. That's what we're going to end up doing because I put it all together already. But I think this is preset real close to the powder I use, which is CFE black. And we're going with a 150 grain bullet. And if we look here at my papers, for a 150 grain bullet, of black, we're going to be somewhere between 18.5 or 0.5 and 21 grains. I don't remember exactly where I'm at, but we will find out here together. This here I got offline. I can't remember the website I found, and it's basically an exact copy of Wilson Combat's data. Now, I do have the 2021 hydrogen book. So I go in here. I know they have data. Hang on, give me a minute. We got to get out a 6mm and find ourselves up in the 30 caliber area. I do like these books, but I don't like the way they're laid out. I wish it was 1 page per cartridge. Alright, well, look at that. In this book, right after 300 Blackout and right before 3030 Winchester is where they have 300 Hammer. If we go to 150 grain bullet, now it's a, you know, flat nose, so on and so forth. We go to black, we got 18.5 and 21 grains. Now we're going to be shooting a bullet we cast, which they generally run a little bit lighter. With cast bullets for, generally the thought process is without that jacket or without a gas check, it can't take the pressure, because with a cast bullet, let's see if I can pick a good one here. With a cast bullet, I don't have gas checks on these because I milled my bullet mold off because I can't find the bullet mold I want. So I got basically a bullet mold for the 7.62 by 39, which actually sizes at 312, and then I sized it down to the caliber that the hammer wants, so it's shorter than it should be. And because I cut it down because it was 160 grains and I need 150, so we're going to give these a try. This might help somebody else out, but the more research you do into cast bullets, the hardness of your lead relates to the pressure. If your lead is too soft in a high velocity rifle cartridge or in a handgun cartridge, you can push the bullet down the barrel that fast that the rifling can't grab that soft lead and get it spinning properly to stabilize it, and you'll get a lot of leading in the barrel because that rifling is ripping lead off basically. A lot of people think it's from that the leading is from that, and it can be in an extreme situation. You would have to run an extremely soft lead bullet. These, I've tested this lead, and I gotta find the right one. Forgive me. I have a blend here right now. It's coming in at a BHN That BHN was when I first formed this ingot. And then it hardened by letting it set. Now it's reading 24 BHN. So if you take 24 BHN, I got a little cheat sheet that I made down here. 24 BHN is good for a little over 30,000 PSI. Well, if you look at our load, we're at 40,000. But, and we're going to find out here, I could be completely full of mud and this might not work. But I think it will. You need a certain amount of pressure of that gunpowder exploding and the gas pushing on the back of the bullet to, and I cannot say this word right, but obliterate, basically upset the bottom of the bullet. Enough pressure to squish that bullet out. Kind of like the old hollow base bullets in the mini ball days, where the pressure made that bullet swell out, and that's what sealed the bore and grabbed the rifling. Because they wanted that bullet smaller, so it was easier to force down the bore. It would go down like a saboted bullet does now, but then seal and grab as it comes up through. If you look at the base of a black powder sabot, it's cup shaped. So the pressure of the gunpowder burning forces it out to seal the bore. Because anybody that is a mechanic or has used a cutting torch knows that when you're cutting with that cutting torch, that heated up spot of metal that you put the gas to and push through, that's what's doing the cutting. Well, the research that I've found, people that do cast bullets all the time, if you don't upset the bottom of that base with enough pressure to seal the bore, the gas that's leaking past your bullet is what causes leading. Melts that lead as it's going by. Where if you contain it at the back, you don't get that bypassing. Now, if you have too hard a lead for your load, you won't upset the base and seal the bore. If you have too soft a lead, the rifling can't grab it. So we're pretty hard in our BHN, which is the hardness. And sometime I'll do a video real specific on the way that I learned, and a friend of mine tests his lead. He told me about it, and I did some research on my own to learn a little more about it after he told me, and I kind of like the process. It's real simple. You don't, not that I'm bashing Lee's hardness BHN tester for lead bullets and anybody else's brand of it, but I don't want to get into it now, but it's using artistic lead pencils. Each one of those leads is a different hardness, and a guy somewhere along the line figured out what the BHN of each one of them pencil graphites is. So then you just take that in a certain way and go on your bullet. You file a flat spot, or we test our ingots to see where we're at before we cast the bullet while we're making up our blend of lead. So we know what the hardness is. And I think at the hardness I have here, it's going to be able to squish the bottom of that bullet to seal the bore, but still be hard enough that it can hold on to that rifling at the velocity we're sending it out there. You know, we're looking anywhere from 1,800 feet per second to 2,000. And we're going to find out how things work out. We're going to see if they shoot worth a darn or not. I'm sure there's a lot of people with the limited data and research that's done out there on the hammer that's going, hey, there's no cast bullet loads, or hey, there's no this, you know, bullets are hard to find, you know. I've been casting bullets. I have 30 caliber bullet molds and whatnot, you know. And people that are really into it, they're going to be figuring out the same thing I'm figuring out. So I'm just trying to, it's not out there. So I'm just trying to put it out there. So, but this is what we're going to be loading. 150 grain, 22 BHN, powder coated with Easton's light blue. As my son would say, Ford blue. He's a Ford guy. I'm not. I'm a Chevy guy. So makes for an interesting household. We did try some of the Harbor Freight. The only powder we could get was white. We're still figuring out the powder coating. As you can probably see back there, I don't want to pick them up. I'm embarrassed of them. But we got enough of them there that will be a decent bullet that we should be able to load. See what it seems like. But anyhow, let's get back into figuring out our load and setting it up here. And how I go through it. I'm sure there's easier ways. Now, since we're doing a lead bullet, what's that? Those are two good pistol primers. Small pistol. So we're going to take our brass here, throw it in a little tin now that I finally got it empty. So we're going to put our load master together here. Always make sure you have that O-ring on the bottom. We honed out the center of our thing there, and it seems to have gotten a little better. I just don't want to spend all night on it. I'll work on it sometime off camera. But I think we might be on to something there. And once I'm sure of it, I'll show you guys if we did come up with a solution. You don't want that super tight. Just so it's there. So we're going to thread this on down. Here a piece. See where we are. I don't think we're quite at dump yet. We'll go down a little more. Thread our powder measure down in a little more. I might be too deep. I am too deep. I'm too deep. And I smashed the end of that case setting that up. And that was way too deep, guys. Something to be wary of. Because your normal rifle through powder dye and there we're at the top of our stroke, but we're not moving the piston far enough. So we need to go down a little bit. Top of our stroke, we're not quite up at the top of our now we're there. I believe. Let's go just a little bit farther. So we want to make sure we're dumping that charge. Let's make sure I got the drum in the right place, guys. And I did. And we'll validate everything before we run along here. You don't want to make that too tight in the back, but you got to make it tight enough that you pull that drum in there well so it seals. Alright, I'm going to say we're right there. We didn't change our case mount at all. No, okay. Where this, like with a pistol die or some, where you can get one to expand it. So now we're going to turn our Austin, hold that down. So nothing moves, we just hold the ram down. And turn our lock ring down. So we're going to see how this one goes, guys. I think it's going to want to shave lead on this one too. So we're going to go on up there, get into our factory crimp. And we shave some powder coat off, but that looks a little better. Let's see what we measure out here for length. A really old friend of mine just showed up. An old shooting buddy of mine. Brother of mine. Oh, and there we got way shorter. GoPro, stop. Alright. Here we got some of our 150 grain powder coated bullets here we made up. We had a little GoPro trouble. We don't got many, but we got enough to shoot a group, see what it looks like. That'll probably be in a separate video so we can talk about how it's shot, measure stuff out, get the velocities, all that kind of thing. If anybody has any comments or questions, I'd love to hear them. Please hit that like button. That seems to be a big deal. Everybody says it, so I might as well say it too. No, it lets me know. It lets me know people are watching, and subscribe if you're seeing something you like, or if you just want to listen to a hillbilly from rural America complain about the country, because I'm sure I'm going to do plenty of that. I didn't do much in this video. I don't know if we're going to stay with this GoPro. I'm going to have to see how the videos look. We might end up going a different direction. I don't even know what it sounds like yet. How well it's picking me up. So anyhow, so now with the Loadmaster,